Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat petang. Saya ucapkan kepada semua yang menyertai sesi webinar ASOMH kali ke-16 pada hari ini. Saya Muhammad Ehsan Fitri bin Rosli akan menjadi moderator anda pada petang ini. Sebelum kita mulakan sesi webinar kita pada hari ini, saya ingin menjemput Wakil Persatuan Pegawai Sains KKM, Puan Norazalina Zainuddin selaku Timbalan Presiden ASOMH untuk menyampaikan ucapan alu-aluan. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okey, terima kasih saudara pengacara majlis Encik Muhammad Ehsan. Saya ingin merakamkan penghargaan dan terima kasih kepada sekretariat yang terlibat di dalam menjayakan webinar pada kali ini. Saya juga mengalu-alukan our presenter for today yang mulia Dr. Raja Elina, Raja Aziddin untuk presentationnya yang berjudul Leading a Successful Career as a Medical Laboratory Scientist. Jadi kepada semua ahli-ahli ASOMH dan juga non-ahli dan member juga saya alu-alukan kedatangan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian ke webinar kita. Saya amat-amat berharap agar sesi ini dapat dimanfaatkan sepenuhnya demi peningkatan dalam memertabatkan diri dalam profession kita sendiri. Saya juga ini ingin mengambil kesempatan supaya mana-mana pegawai sains yang masih belum lagi menjadi ahli agar dapat menjadi ahli supaya banyak lagi aktiviti-aktiviti yang dirancang oleh persatuan ini dapat melibatkan dirilah dalam aktiviti-aktiviti yang persatuan telah rancangkanlah, ya. Saya juga ingin menarik perhatian kepada semua ahli ataupun non-ahli, especially pegawai sains lah, ya, agar mereka sentiasa ada semangat memertabatkan ataupun meningkatkan diri sendiri lebih cemerlang dan terbilang di pentas yang lebih tinggilah, ya, seperti buat presentations di dunia, membentangkan kertas-kertas kerja, membuat research supaya selain daripada memajukan diri, ia juga dapat menaikkan lagi lah nama martabat profession. So kepada our presenter, saya ucapkan berbanyak terima kasih sudi luangkan masa untuk sesi kami ini. Yang saya rasa memang takkan pernah jemu lah untuk bimbing adik-adik kami yang ditinggalkan ni lah, macam Dr. Raja orang kata dah melalui, ya, segala pahit getih. Bukanlah maksudnya jadi pegawai sains ni pahit getih saja, ada manisnya, ya, ada manisnya. Tapi beliau telah melalui lah apa yang kita lalui, dan sebenarnya ada banyak lagi lah, ya, perkara ataupun jalan-jalan yang kita harus lalui. Okay, sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih jugalah kepada semua ahli, dan saya ingin mengajak semua supaya kita prihatin demi kebajikan bersama, kita bersemangat juga untuk maju bersama, kita berpadu untuk membangun bersama, dan kita ia sekata untuk melangkah bersama. Jadi persatuan bergerak bersama supaya profesion gemilang dan persatuan sungguhnya menjadi pencetus dan juga perintis. Okey, sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada Puan Nur Azlina atas ucapan aluan sebentar tadi. Sebelum kita mulakan sesi webinar kita pada petang ini, izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan penceramah jemputan kita. Penceramah jemputan kita pada hari ini ialah Dr. Raja Elina Raja Aziddin. Mendapat pendidikan awal dalam bidang biokemistri serta Doktor Falsafah dalam bidang Medical Sciences dari Universiti Malaya. Saya telah melihat CV Dr. Raja Elina yang pada pendapat saya semua peserta kita memang kenal siapa Dr. Raja Elina. Saya kongsikan sedikit affiliation Dr. Raja Elina yang merupakan Presiden Malaysian Association of Clinical Biochemists, National Representative to the Asia Pacific Federation of Clinical Biochemistry and Laboratory Medicine, also National Representative to the International Federation of Clinical Chemistry and Laboratory Medicine. Dr. Raja Elina juga merupakan Senior Technical Assessor di bawah Standard Malaysia untuk ISO 15189 dan juga merupakan Lead Assessor yang terlatih. Pada baru-baru ini dengan penguatkuasaan Akta 774, Dr. Raja Elina telah dilantik sebagai ahli Majlis Malaysian Allied Health Profession Council serta sejak Ogos 2002 yang lalu beliau telah dilantik sebagai adjunct profesor untuk Fakulti Sains Kesihatan Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, saya menjemput speaker kita pada hari ini, Dr. Raja Elina Raja Aziddin untuk menyampaikan webinar pada petang yang mulia ini. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera kepada semua. Okey ya, sound dengar ya, jelas ya?
Okey.
Okey, terlebih dulu saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Puan Azlina dan juga Encik Muhammad Ehsan dan Encik Zuhaimi yang telah sudilah menjemput saya untuk berkongsi pengalaman ya. Today saya rasa ini saya rasa satu penghargaan juga untuk saya berkongsi apa yang saya telah lalui dan seperti yang disebut tadilah oleh Puan Azlina, the road has been long lah ya, dan berliku, tapi alhamdulillah semasa throughout my whole career ada yang telah dapat dicapai lah. Ya, jadi saya kongsi dan hari ini saya rasa kita buat santai. Saya akan cuba share and then later I will leave for questions lah. Ya. Let me try to share. I think you have to allow me to share.
Okay. Cuba doktor boleh tak?
Tak nampak ni. Nampak saya punya style. You dah allow saya share ke?
Should be okay doktor, no problem.
I don't see my slide. Tak. Sorry ya, tak dapat, I don't see my slide ni.
Cuba doktor pilih sharing a window, boleh?
Sharing window saya nampak you je.
Oh, kalau doktor share entire screen lepas tu buka PowerPoint boleh betul?
Share entire screen. Okay. Okay, nampak tak?
Sekarang nampak.
Okay.
Boleh slideshow doktor?
Okay, alright.
Okay.
Okay, this is the outline of my lecture. Jadi lecture saya ni saya buat dua bahasa ya, agak informal lah ya. First saya akan bincang berkenaan dengan brief history lah on the development of medical lab scientist profession in Ministry of Health. Saya rasa ramai adik-adik sini mungkin tak tahulah ya history medical lab scientist ya. Jadi I will go back as far as yang saya ada info lah. Kemudian I will share also my personal journey, experience sharing as a medical lab scientist in the Ministry of Health. And then I will talk about the challenges and opportunities for MLS in the current scenario. And then I'll discuss also steps towards a successful career as a medical lab scientist and tips to building a successful career. So if you go back to history in the 1960 to 1970 era, diagnostic service mainly dibekalkan oleh IMR, mainly offered by IMR, and hospital labs were only offering very basic labs, and these labs are known as clinical labs. And the role of medical lab scientists at that time was basically in IMR was to set up new tests, manage the units or the sections in the IMR, manage the quality of the test, report results, conduct training. Conduct training was mainly for the test methods that they develop, carry out research, and also provide some technical consultancy. And basically all the new scientists that were appointed at that time had to undergo technical training in IMR. So the challenges then, it was difficult to get instruments and also to introduce new tests or services in the hospitals because of the limited capability in the labs then. And so the move was to actually create medical lab scientist posts in the hospital labs. So in the between 1970 to 1980 era, the diagnostic services was expanded in the MOH hospitals, and with that, the biochemists and microbiologists were actually sent to these hospitals. And although majority of the posts was still in IMR, so government hospitals at that time masa tu, only the state hospitals had one biochemist, and then this later followed with one microbiologist. And one state at that time used to have only one or two scientists. And also posts were created in the university hospital labs and also in blood banks. And at that time, there was no promotional posts. So the salary scale was at C41 equivalent. So the role of medical lab scientists in hospital labs at the time was to manage the hospital labs, to set up new tests and services, manage sample collection, because at that time sample collection was under the lab's purview. So the medical lab technologists used to go to the wards or to the clinics to collect sample. Also to manage quality. At that time, of course, quality control, although it was done, was very simple, plus minus 2 SD. And then to carry out troubleshooting, report results, and also at that time to provide consultation because there was no other senior officers in the lab. So there was a lot of consultation that is required, and this was provided not just based on technical, but also clinical consultancy with regards to diagnostic testing. And also the task of the medical lab scientists at that time was to train the MLTs. So the challenges then was still to get new equipments, to expand the range of tests, to create more medical lab scientists and MLT posts in hospital labs. And at that time, medical lab head was either a biochemist or a microbiologist. And then, they headed the labs, the biochem lab and the micro lab. So medical lab scientists between 1980 to 1990, still the post that existed then was the biochemist and microbiologist. But in the late 80s, I think it was around 1990, if I'm not mistaken, the IMR post was converted to research officer. So the medical lab scientists or the biochemists and microbiologists of pegawai sains kimia hayat, pegawai sains kaji kuman was limited to the hospital labs. So at that time, more and more posts were created, and they actually were sent to not just state labs, but also to district labs. And there was also a post created in the water quality division and in blood banks, and of course the university hospitals also expanded. They also took in a number of medical lab scientists. At that time, there was actually a creation of C48 promotional posts, and only 4 people got it. I think 2 in IMR and 2 in the 2 biochemists and 2 biochemists in the hospital and 2 in IMR, and also microbiology, likewise. So very few posts at that time. And the role of the medical lab scientists in hospital labs was still to manage hospital labs and the units, to set up new tests, manage sample collection, perform complex testing. At that time, we were already doing hands-on testing because we started introducing more complex testing. And at that time, complex testing was actually very manual. And iron TIBC for ChemPath was one of the tests. We manage quality, and then of course do troubleshooting, report results, provide consultation. And at that time also there were pathologists that were already employed. And so we had to train pathologists in addition to training medical doctors, MLS, the other junior medical lab scientists, and also the MLTs. So at that time, opportunities for post-grad training was only for officers in IMR. So there was no opportunity lah untuk medical lab scientist di hospital untuk menjalani training, post-grad training, either locally ataupun abroad. And the challenges then, besides getting all this budget and equipment, create posts and all that, we also look at creating promotional posts. And it was difficult then also because there was limited access to references. Tak ada macam sekarang, very easy access, internet and all that. So at that time, if we want to get references, we would have to go to IMR library. So I used to actually spend my cuti apa kata bila bercuti pergi IMR, duduk kat library to get references, and then reference also you have to pay to get the articles. So that was the situation then lah. And then tak ada training opportunity, also no research opportunities and no mentoring opportunities, but there's very few of us. So semua pun busy with the work, senior pun tak ramai, so tak ada peluang. And I remember that the most frustrating actually is sometimes when you want to learn about something, we also had to take, I used to have to take leave to pergi attach myself kepada lab yang lebih besar to learn from senior yang ada. So it was quite challenging lah at that time to get training and also to learn new things. But the factors that brought about change was autonomy of MLS in hospital labs. So they are no longer reporting to IMR because now the medical lab scientists adalah di hospital dan research officers di IMR. So kita dulu used to also run to IMR, but now because they are research officer, their focus was more research. So we have to develop the expertise in our own hospital labs. And there were increasing number of medical lab scientists at that time, beginning to increase lah. So my personal experience as a medical lab scientist between 1980 to 1990 era, so I was actually taken in as pegawai sains kaji kuman. So sangkut, so it's an attachment position. In 1982, maybe some of you not born yet, and at that time I had to lecture microbiology at IKU to public health inspectors. So that's how I started my career. And then after that, in 1983, when there was a post for biochemist, I actually applied, and I was successful. And then I was sent to hospital Kota Baru. So there I manage quality, report results, perform troubleshooting, biasalah, maintain analyzers and provide. And even at that time, I was a junior officer, I had to give consultancy to clinicians. So I was quite intimidated with this task. And so had to hafal, orang kata Zilba and panel, so that I would know how to give proper consultancy to clinicians when they ask about what tests can you do for my patients. And we used to go for ward rounds at that time. And then I got transferred to Hospital Ipoh. In fact, I was transferred first to Teluk Intan for 6 months, and then followed by transfer to Ipoh. Because at that time the hospital Intan was not ready, so they sent me to Ipoh. So in Hospital Ipoh, I had actually the opportunity to work with one senior biochemist who was very innovative. So I had the opportunity to learn about modifying test method, and I was still running tests, actually performing tests, of course reporting results, and then maintaining analyzer also we maintain our own. We are not so lucky at that time as to just panggil technicians, because technicians used to take 2-3 days and we didn't have any backup instruments. Semua kena buat sendiri. So we had to learn how to do maintenance. And in fact, I was so good at it, I was even offered a job as an engineer with one company. And then, of course, the other task that we had to do was to train staff. So then, in the late 80s, I was sent to Hospital Intan to actually plan for the new hospital lab. And we moved the hospital lab from the old lab to new. And I was the only medical scientist in this new hospital. And so I was appointed head for both pathology and blood bank. So at that time we had no choice, had to develop or set up services, micro, hemato, as well as blood bank, because we had all the labs, all the facilities, but tak ada pegawai. So from 1987, when I was there, we only had 8 MLTs. So the services expanded. So by the time I left in 1991, we had 52 staff. So then in 1990 to 2000, we had, of course, a new post now. The genetics people came in, and posts were still the same, in the various government hospitals, the water quality division, blood banks, in the hospitals. But now private hospitals and labs started taking medical lab scientists, because before this, staff in the private hospitals or labs were only the MLTs. So the scientists were actually employed during this era. And we had better salary scale at the promotion post scale from 41, 48, we had also 54, but only one at that time. One biochemist, one microbiologist, and C54 post. So very kesian lah, very kata limited opportunity. And at that time, basically the roles were similar, but now during this era, more pathologists were also employed. So big hospitals now had pathologists managing the pathology departments, and the scientists were actually managing the smaller district labs. And at that time, we were still training pathologists, medical doctors, MLS, and MLTs. And opportunities for training at that time dah ada lah, because before this was just limited to IMR officers, but now we have opportunities for training of our officers. And this training just actually not just local, but also to universities abroad. So the challenges, beside the usual challenges, we actually had still limited training courses, research opportunities, and very limited postgrad training opportunities. And so that was the challenge that we had at that time that we wanted to overcome. And factors that brought about change was there were new disciplines in pathology. So new services were introduced, and this also went to diagnostic services in hospital labs, because before this, most of the like tumor markers, for example, in clinical pathology, they were done in IMR. But with the focus of IMR being a research center, all these more complex testing started going to hospital labs. So the diagnostic services in hospital labs expanded due to this policy. And because of this also, there were more pathologists, MLS and MLT posts created in the pathology departments or in the hospital labs. So my experience as a biochemist between 1990 and 2000 era, this is a rather exciting era for me, because at that time I was transferred to hospital KL. Actually, I asked for it because I find that hospital Intan, although I was the head there, there was only so much or the services that were that could be offered to the hospital was rather limited. So I wanted to do more. So I was actually transferred in 1991. And at that time, I was given the opportunity to set up the drug and research lab in HKL. And this lab later became the national reference lab in 1992. And at that time, we managed to set up the ATS confirmatory test method by GCMS. So that was the first time that we were doing confirmatory method of drugs by GCMS. And then the TDM services at that time also was not with pathology, it was with pharmacy. So we managed to actually bring the TDM services to pathology. And then the special proteins, protein electrophoresis tumor markers, which was initially offered by IMR, was actually brought over to pathology lab HKL. And then I started also training courses via the MOH as well as MECB. And this was because I had personal experience where I found that it's so difficult to actually find training. So because of this, we started conducting courses. And we also, at that time also, we were conducting quality improvement studies because this didn't involve any extra funding. And we prepared SOPs. I think that was the era where we were aggressively preparing all proper documented procedures because we were thinking of going for accreditation. And in addition to that, I had the opportunity because there were still not very many of us, and I was a bit more senior at that time. So I was involved in the planning of the expansion of pathology services, and in the planning and setting up of Selayang Hospital and IJN labs. And so it was quite exciting when we actually were involved in the Selayang Hospital because it was a paperless hospital. And then my lab was the first to install a lab information system at that time. And I was also involved in the national tender to provide automated analyzers to hospital labs because before this, most of the labs were just using spectrophotometers. So it was during this era where we aggressively worked to get automated analyzers for all the hospital labs. And we were also gearing for lab accreditation. So I had the opportunity to be trained as a quality champion for lab accreditation. And at that time, tak ada lagi ISO 15189. We started off with 17025. And then we actually worked with Standards Malaysia lah to form the MS ISO 15189. In addition to that aspect of work, I was very much involved in preparing a paper to set up the division of allied health services in Ministry of Health, because we felt that for our profession to grow, we wanted a division to look after our interests. So we started preparing a paper to get this set up. And we also prepared a number of papers on post-grad training requirements for medical lab scientists. And because saya banyak cakap, so I was asked by the seniors at that time to present these papers at a number of Ministry of Health directors meetings. So saya present banyak jugalah meeting, directors meeting, one in Genting, then in Johor, and then again in Penang, to get MOH to approve more post-grad training opportunities for medical lab scientists. I was representing by the biochemist profession, and Puan Zaidatul, she actually represented the microbiologists. So in between 2000 and 2010, of course, we had now the biomedical scientists who came in, and then the forensic, but I won't touch on the forensic here. and salary scale was better now. We had more promotional posts from 41, 44, 48, 52, 54. So we were quite successful in actually getting more promotions for the biochemist or the microbiologist group. And at that time, our work was still very much the same. Lebih kurang lah. And I think we were still training pathologists, even the medical doctors and the other scientists and the MRTs, and opportunities for postgrad training because of that became more available for a medical lab scientists in hospital labs in the blood banks and locally and abroad. I think challenges was about the same at that time. And my personal experience during that era was the lab accreditation, the ISO 15189. So I think we saw labs having proper documentation and procedures all were put in place, and this actually was brought about because of an incident. Actually, this incident helped to push our labs towards accreditation. There was sample that was for blood transfusion that was not tested and was actually positive for HIV. So because of that, it happened in one of the state labs. So because of that incident, it helped the pathology discipline to actually push for accreditation of the pathology labs in the country. And we also looked at total lab automation because it had already come in at that time. And now rules, we started looking at rules also, from the simple 2SD to multi-rule QC. And then in this era also setting up the core lab. And in my own lab, we set up the ketamine confirmatory test method. And we expanded the ATS confirmatory GCMS method to regional labs, because before this, all testing of ATS confirmatory was only done in HKL. And then, of course, there were other committees. And as I mentioned, we were involved also in setting up of the MS ISO 15189, because before this, we had to request for NATA to come. NATA is the Australian accreditation body, so it's very costly. Every time they come, they charge us millions to just accredit a few labs. So we decided to work with Standards Malaysia to actually set up the Malaysian standard ISO 15189, so that accreditation could be done by a local accreditation body. So I was also involved in the drafting of the Pathology Act at that time. And in addition to that, for the profession, we started preparing and presenting paper on pembangunan kerjaya for pegawai sains kimia hayat. And actually Puan Zai and her team did one for microbiology. So we presented several papers to Sumber Manusia and to several KSUs. We had a few, I think 2 or 3 KSUs was kind enough to actually spare us the time to actually present directly to them. So this is what we did for the kerjaya. And we worked also in setting up the division to actually firm up the proposal for the allied health science in KKM. And then also we started looking at drafting the Allied Health Act, because before this, the medical lab scientist was not actually involved with the Allied Health Act. It was more for the physiotherapists, the radiographers, and so on. So we started only joining, I think around 2007. We started various training programs in MOH to actually conduct specific or focused topic trainings. And I also was involved with the setting up of the forensic lab in the hospital Sungai Buloh. So at that time, I was lucky enough to be invited also to present some papers at national and international conferences. So between 2010 to to the present, I think now the numbers are more. We have also had our scientists holding the position of Jusasi. So I think we have made quite a bit of a progress with regards to promotional posts. Yeah? And I think also opportunities for training is also much better now compared to before. And if you look at the role now, of course, the role seems to be less, because we are not heading labs now, and then we're not training pathologists or now, because they are more they are trained pathologists or more senior pathologists who do the training. But I think it is time that we actually take on other roles, and I will share with you what is the way forward. So my personal experience between this time was to introduce and implement the Six Sigma Lean risk management to pathology labs. And then I also set up and offered the confirmatory test by LCMS MS for the drug of abuse panel. And we also modified the ATS and ketamine confirmatory test by GCMS to shorten the analysis time, and introduce the confirmatory test of opiates by GCMS. Yeah? And of course, I was involved in other committees. And during this time, I was lucky to be appointed as the head of the biochemist profession. And we actually finalized the AHP Act and regulations during this period. And experimented also with the first instrument placement tender. So this was actually done for tacrolimus test on TDX machine. So and surprisingly, it was approved. So following that, the pathology instrument placement tenders were all done this way. Then I was more active in research at that time, because before we didn't have much opportunity. So I had the opportunity to actually do original research on TDM immunoassay test methods. We work with a few labs around Southeast Asia, and then also conducted quality improvement studies, and which I presented actually at the National Quality Convention. And I strongly recommend that medical lab scientists do this sort of study, because it doesn't involve any additional funding, and you can actually present at National Quality Convention, which is held, I think, every year, if I'm not mistaken. So then I was also involved in the reference range study under the ISCC and APFCB global initiative. So after I retired, I was taken in to be the APLCB traveling lecturer, and only then I became the technical assessor for DSM, because when I was in service, I never had the time. So I became technical assessor for ISO 15189 after I retired. And I was lucky that I was also invited in various national and international conferences, in webinars, seminars, and training courses. And you can actually follow some of these more recent ones, like the data analytics, which was under the IFCC. This is how I want to actually stay relevant to the current scenario, because if you don't need to present, or you don't need to actually keep up to date, then the information that you have will be outdated. So this is one way that you can keep abreast lah, keep up to date lah, kata. And then of course I was asked to be in the MAHPC Allied Health Council, and recently the adjunct professor for Faculty of Health Sciences. And I also was involved with ABFCB in the last few years. Because before this I never had the time as well. So I was actually appointed as chair of the APFCB Communications and Publications after becoming a member for a few years. And then I became also the committee member of the ICC Clinical Lab Management Committee. And in this committee, we actually have a lot of opportunities to present papers, to actually write papers, and to actually prepare guidelines and so on. Yeah? So I encourage all those who are keen to actually join this committee, so that you can have the opportunity. And then also a member of the C212, which is the International ISO committee. So my lessons learned, we should not wait for things to get done by someone else, because no one will do anything for our profession. So we have to actually do it ourselves, and take the initiative to make things better. And you can be a leader no matter what position you hold. Just because you're not head of a department or head of unit doesn't mean that you cannot be a leader. And nothing comes easy. Everything is hard work. And do not let others decide the fate of your profession or your career, because where we want to be is up to us. Yeah? And regard every challenge as an opportunity, and never give up. And believe that you can make a difference. I think everyone has something to contribute. Everyone is unique, and I think everyone has something to give to make this profession better. So the current challenges that MLS faces is opportunities, I feel, for specialized technical and postgrad training, although they are, is still limited. And I think the prospect for promotion is quite competitive nowadays. And research funding is, of course, always limited. And there are now overlapping roles and functions with other professions in lab medicine. And the challenge is of course, to get professional recognition. So what are the opportunities? Kalau ada challenge, mesti ada opportunity. So opportunity now is easy access to information, learning material, latest updates. It's so easy. Everything is now at the fingertips. Easy access to training. There are so many different type of training programs now. And more opportunities also for postgrad training. More fields to specialize in. And this is important for all medical scientists to look at the bidang now that you feel there is a need for specialization. And these are targets, areas or target fields that you should be actually looking into to specialize, because under the allied health, Act, there is actually registration for pakar bukan specialist lah, for experts lah kita kata, for experts, and this is related to the area of specialty yang kita dah identify. So networking opportunities with local and international experts. And dulu we all were so isolated, you know, we work on our own, very hard for us to meet each other because dulu tak ada conference, tak ada online. So but now everything is, the world has become smaller. So there are many opportunities. And access to mentoring opportunities. This can be done locally because there are a lot of seniors now, a lot of established labs that you can get yourself attached for mentoring opportunities. And there are also opportunities for attachment or mentoring with international labs in for example in Europe, and this offer is open to all labs, even in Southeast Asia, Malaysia included. So if you all are interested, you can contact me. I can provide you some info on this. Opportunity also to network with other allied health professions, and this is through the BSKB, because now we have the Allied Health Council. So many different disciplines work together now. An opportunity to register an expert, as I mentioned earlier. An opportunity for promotion, an opportunity to get a fast track promotion. In addition to the normal, you can also try and work towards the SME. So what's the future for medical lab scientists? Will there be new roles? And if you look at the current trend, you know there's artificial intelligence is the top of town, orang kata. Machine learning, data analytics ini, you dengar lah semua orang cakap about this, and then robotics. So there are a lot of new things that is coming, and medical lab actually the field is very dynamic. It's always growing, it's always changing. So you must be willing to continuously learn new things, to play new roles, and to work in a team and change and adapt where necessary, where and when necessary. So what skills are important? Of course, you should have a good technical and clinical knowledge, management skills, leadership skills, communication skills, problem solving skills, innovative skills. I think you all know lah, banyak talk will tell you about all this. And then also now important is ethical skills lah. So is having a postgrad qualification the answer to a successful career? Well, actually is what you do with it that's important. Kalau you ada PhD ke, kalau you ada masters or PhD or with whatever certificate that you have, but if you don't do anything to improve yourself or to improve your work, then it doesn't mean anything. So steps to a successful career, you should have the right attitude, and you must decide how much effort is enough. Be interested in what you do, update yourself with the latest knowledge, technology and practices. Find a niche area of interest and develop their expertise. Take a leadership role to make improvements to your work. Be active in national, international societies, committees, task force working groups, and carry out studies, research, either in technical, clinical, quality improvement initiatives. And present, always aim for that, present at national, international conferences, and better still if you can publish. Network with colleagues and experts. So the importance of being a member of professional body is because these societies, they act as collective voice to advocate for the profession, sets the standard of practice, and provide members with critical resources such as continuing education, mentor-mentee programs, and career guides, and also provide networking opportunities and opportunities for members to take up leadership role. So there are many societies. I think kita pegawai sains very mixed group. So find a society that is suitable for you and become a member. I think when with the Allied Health Act, this is now important to be a member of a professional body. So last few slides, road to a successful career, what are the tips? So you must keep abreast with the latest technology and diagnostic practices. Read journals, kena baca journal, bukan baca magazine je. Attend webinars, attend training, be ready and willing to learn new things. Be passionate about learning and be hands-on. Bukan delegate everything. You must know also. Get involved with mentoring activities, because if you have knowledge, you mentor someone, you teach someone, you remember better and you know things better also. Network with peers, local international experts, clinicians and other healthcare providers. Do not hide behind walls and be a team player. Practice effective communication. Be professional, be polite and courteous. Use proper language. How you carry yourself is important. Ask questions where appropriate and learn to listen. It's very important to learn to listen. And know yourself. Be your own evaluator. Identify your strengths and weaknesses. Have the right attitude. Be willing to change for the better. Be willing to accept responsibility. Set goals to achieve. Be willing to work hard and be positive. So the path to success is not a one-way street. There are many options that you have. So evaluate yourself and know your strengths and weaknesses and plan your career and work towards implementing that plan. And the single biggest success factor is actually you yourself. And your biggest challenge is passion. So if you're passionate about something, inshallah, you will be successful. So my best wishes to all of you. Harap that you all will have a bright career ahead of you. So thank you very much. Right, open for question.
Okey, terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada Dr. Raja Elina atas perkongsian yang pada pendapat saya syarat dengan pengalaman dan motivasi kepada pegawai sains, khususnya pegawai sains junior untuk meningkatkan potensi diri kita. Kita ada 2 soalan di ruangan chat. 2 soalan
Okey.
Okey, yang pertama bukan soalan ni, ini pernyataan daripada Encik Zuhaimi. Ucapan terima kasih kepada Dr. Raja Elina yang sudi memberi perkongsian ilmu dan pengalaman terutama kepada pegawai sains junior. Pihak ASOMH amat mengharapkan lebih ramai lagi pegawai sains akan mengikut jejak langkah doktor yang terlibat secara aktif di dalam dan juga di luar negara. Terlalu banyak jasa dan pengorbanan doktor dan juga sini-sini sebut ini yang mana hasilnya kita semua dapat lihat sekarang. Soalan dari Nur Syamsiah binti Ahmad, it is not until 2000 that we see the rise and burst of the dot-com bubble. So may we know what were the sources of ideas and knowledge that you managed to obtain back then?
Apa dia? What bubble?
Maksudnya sebelum tahun 2000 kita kan macam doktor cakap tadi kita kurang pendedahan pada internet. So apa sources of ideas and knowledge yang doktor managed to obtain?
Okay, the most important is for you to read lah, to read and to get knowledge lah. And I think because of this dot-com bubble or whatever, internet of things, sekarang memang information is easily accessible, but you must know where to get lah. Must get the right source lah, because the right source is important. And the best approach is of course to read journals lah, because when you read journals, these already authenticated articles lah. You know that whatever information there is already reviewed by peers, especially if it's a peer-reviewed journal. So practice that lah, when you because if you Google now, there's so many articles, so you must know lah mana satu yang actually you nak baca, and but like I say, go for the more established journals or peer-reviewed journals, and that becomes you punya paksi lah. And then you can read other things. Because experts also, there are many views. Just like COVID lah. If you read about COVID, sometimes you get confused. Mana yang pakar ni? One pakar say like this, one pakar say like that. So you have to paksikan with some peer-reviewed journal. So that will become your paksi. And then you read other views, and then you can form your own views. Like for example, like I say, you can be your own leader. It doesn't mean that you have to follow. As a scientist, especially now under ISO 15189, the new standard, you'll be required to actually do everything risk-based. People are not going to tell you, do this 1, 2, 3, 4. Because once you have developed some form of certain standard of knowledge, you will be able to have your own opinion. And sometimes, even though you think you're junior, but your opinion and your ideas may be very good, maybe even better than the experts. So don't devalue yourself or your opinions. Tapi like I say, you have to have sound knowledge first lah. Read, make sure that you have apa orang kata, the right resource and network. I think that's also very important, because if you are involved in the international arena, kalau you actually read a journal and you're not so clear about what the author means, you can even write to the author, and a number of authors do respond and tell you and coach you, you know. So I think that's the way to go lah.
Saya rasa secara kesimpulannya dalam dunia yang tanpa batasan hari ini, kita MAS kena mengambil peluang lah, macam yang doktor cakap tadi kan. Ada dua soalan daripada Cik Zuhaimi. Pertama, apakah cabaran yang paling utama bagi profesi pegawai sains sekarang memandangkan bilangan pegawai sains lebih ramai berbanding dahulu? Dan soalan kedua, jika doktor diberi pilihan atau peluang untuk membuat tindakan bagi kemajuan profesi pegawai sains, apakah yang akan doktor lakukan?
Okay, terima kasih di atas soalan tersebut. Very good question ya. So the first is untuk you, macam what Encik Zuhaimi cakap tu betul, macam saya kata tadi, it's very competitive. So you have to stand out. What I mean by stand out is that you must do something yang make you orang kata be recognized. Sama ada you're very good in certain field, because some people they prefer administrative work, they prefer. But if you just do admin, you're very good also, then you have to start presenting what you do. For example, in national quality conventions, show what you have done, your lean process or whatever, you know, share what you have done. Because if you do good and you don't share, people do not know. So I think most important is for you to keluar lah from behind the walls, and start presenting, start sharing what you do. I think that's important. Lepas tu also be knowledgeable, equip yourself. Some people they like technical, so go for technical. Some tu nak jadi expert in certain bidang, for example inborn error. So there are many ways that actually you don't have to all become inborn error punya pakar. Kan, expert, bukan semua orang boleh jadi tu, tapi there are many ways. Kalau you read journals, I take example India lah. I think I will go over time, tapi just give me a few minutes. I will take India. India is so big, and they have so many scientists. So can you imagine the competition that they have to go through to stand out? But the medical scientists, they are so aggressive. They prepare whatever little thing that they do in the lab, they publish. You know, they talk about sample receiving also, they publish. Dia buat sikit je improvement in their work process, they publish. And then they present papers, and they are members to so many committees. No matter what committee you buat, orang India ni semua nak apply, nak sit in that committee. So be active, you know. So go through your local associations and learn about it. You have to be involved in local associations first. Then you can go for so and like saya promo sikit lah macam MACB for example. That is not limited to MACB. It can be any other profession. You can actually use your profession. You don't wait lah untuk president to announce something baru nak buat. You can propose. Katalah I want to do a study on this. Study apa? Just a survey katakan. Can the society help? If wherever possible, society will help. And you want to prepare a guideline, for example, or you think you have this issue and you want to form a committee, a task force to look into solving certain problems. All that can be done through the society. So this is my my advice lah. And I must say that saya pun, I don't know how long I will still be active in as a pegawai sains to represent the country, but I find that I would very much like to actually see lah before saya duduk diam-diam kat rumah. I would like to see more and more Malaysian colleagues lah yang pergi dapat award, yang pergi yang kata internationally recognized, and you all have the potential. And even katakan even Indonesia now, you know, before they used to be so shy. Kalau duduk kalau di semua duduk belakang-belakang, they don't present, but now Indonesians are going up to present, even though their English broken ke apa, but they go up and they present papers, they get awards. Thailand is the same. Thailand sometimes memang tak boleh cakap langsung, dia dah ambil interpretator, tapi dia nak juga present. So that is find your niche area lah, you know. There's no one answer lah to that. Cari, but you must find ways to actually stand out. The other question was actually apa dia?
Jika doktor diberi peluang untuk kemajuan pegawai sains, apa yang doktor akan lakukan? Okay,
for me, kemajuan pegawai sains is actually to be recognized lah. Is because once it's recognized, it's easy for you to get your promotion, to get training, but to stand out as a profession that orang kata that excel. So you and don't let the pathologists being there block your career or block your peluang for this, you know. Contohnya lah, I give you a contoh like physiotherapists. Physiotherapists, they come out with their own apa orang kata procedures, that procedure, and they present that procedure yang they come out with, and they get awards for that procedure. Tak ada apa sangat pun, you know, but the innovation dia, and because of that, DG pun recognize, oh, physiotherapist. And you look at pharmacies every year, the quality punya initiatives or quality studies all menang oleh pharmacies. So they get the attention of the management, top management, because they are very visible. So that's the word lah. Yeah? So my thing is that now it's time for pegawai sains to be visible. Okay, betul. And work as a team. Yeah, work as a team. Because if we work as a team, we are strong, be collective, be resourceful. Inshallah, I think all of you, you know, you got a very bright career. But don't sit back, because things move in today's world. Kalau you sit back, you ketinggalan. That is my jawapan lah.
Macam doktor cakap tadi, saya rasa pegawai sains walaupun kita berbeza profession, kita kena ada kesatuan untuk menonjolkan diri kita. Soalan seterusnya, apakah pendapat doktor jika ada dalam kalangan pegawai sains yang mengatakan tidak perlu untuk bergiat dalam persatuan kerana sibuk dengan tugas hakiki?
Ya, ramai yang berfikiran begitu. Tapi saya rasa kalau you just terlibat dalam your own work, you agak rugi jugalah. To me it's rugi, because when you involve in association, it's an opportunity for you to actually show what you can do. Because bila you dalam persatuan, dia tak limit kepada your department ataupun your hospital. Dia lebih, orang kata, melibatkan ramai orang. Dia lebih it can be national, it can be international. So from being involved in persatuan, you actually will be able to gain to make your work easier sebenarnya. Because when you do your work yang you sendiri buat, sometimes your knowledge or your ability is terhad, so learn to actually work with others. Because I know a lot of pegawai sains, dia rasa, I'm so busy, I don't have time. But make time. Kalau kita orang kata where there's a will, there's a way lah. Bukan kata you spend all your time, tapi spare a bit of time. Manage your time well so that you will be able to work together lah, orang kata, as a team melalui professional body. So I think in the long run it will benefit you lah.
Soalan seterusnya agak agresif soalan ni. Apakah pandangan doktor terhadap ASOMH yang dilihat sebagai satu persatuan yang berhaluan kiri atas sebab beberapa isu yang berbeza pandangan dengan majoriti pegawai sains?
Okey, ASOMH, saya terlibat dengan ASOMH daripada awal juga ya. Of course, I'm not sure lah apa yang dimaksudkan haluan kiri itu sekarang but whatever is, bila persatuan, when you are a professional body, the approach must be professional approach lah. Tobi itu yang important. Kita as a pegawai, kita orang kata peringkat eksekutif kan, kita bukan peringkat union. You are that level. So macam buat demo, itu agak tidak sesuai. Jadi kita mesti kaji what is the best method for us to get something we want. Sometimes tu saya kata, bila cara kita menulis surat, cara kita berbahasa, we have to be professional. Being lefty or being orang kata pemikiran yang berbeza is not always bad, but it's how you approach lah, cara you approach. You tak boleh be very abusive ataupun condemn people, so if you want respect, you have to respect others as well. So be careful in the approach lah. Kadang idea kita tu bagus, tapi approach kita tu. So I think you all understand lah what I mean by being professional lah.
Saya ulangi sekali, jika ada apa-apa soalan yang ingin dilontarkan kepada speaker jemputan kita pada hari ini, boleh disampaikan melalui ruangan chat atau boleh unmute untuk bertanya secara langsung dengan Dr. Raja Elina pada petang ini. Ada apa-apa soalan sebelum kita akhiri sesi webinar kita pada petang ini? Saya rasa tak ada kot doktor sampai setakat itu. Sebelum
I just want to pesan lah, sampaikan pesanlah to all of you ya yang mengikuti sesi ni. Saya faham because I'm one of you so saya faham what you all are going through, and I'm with you and I will do whatever I can to actually help the profession grow. But it's up to you dan saya harap that while I'm still around, apa yang saya boleh buat, your ideas, that is most welcome. We can orang kata work together to see how to make things better untuk orang kata the next level ni now dah register, kita nak jadikan orang pakar pula kan. So we are working on that, so we hope that you all have suggestions, ideas, and where I can try to facilitate, I will insyaAllah facilitate. And please make use of the society to give your views, your ideas, apa yang you rasa boleh kita buat, dan kita akan laksanakan bersama. And we open although I know some of you bukan pegawai kimia, tapi actually MEC is open there are many programs yang kita buka untuk semua. Sebab I rasa the bigger we are, the stronger we are if you are together.
Doktor ada soalan terakhir daripada Encik Ahmad Bazmi. Boleh Doktor share how you get your first international opportunity? Sama ada presenting a paper or giving lecture.
Okay. Saya sebenarnya, saya buat banyak juga actually I know people lah. I know people and I buat banyak training sebenarnya. I buat training locally, I present locally, and I conference. Dulu saya pun buat oral, saya suka bercakap. Jadi saya selalu buat oral presentation. Saya tak buat poster sebab saya poster ni saya rasa macam agak limited kan apa yang you nak cerita. So I have been presenting in local conferences. I think maybe that's one of the ways lah yang orang tahulah saya boleh kata present lah. But actually having like I'm also one of the speaker for IFC. Actually even at this age saya bukan katakan saya takut. Saya pun gementar juga bila nak cakap kat IFCC webinar tu, saya rasa macam nervous sangat. Tapi it's the challenge that you kena overcome lah, you sendiri kena overcome. It's whether you nak atau tak nak kan. Tapi kita bukan katakan I'm very experienced, I tak nervous. No, actually I'm scared also, I nervous juga. Sama je. Kita semua sama je.
Okay. Jadi saya menyeru semua rakan-rakan pegawai sains, sahutlah seruan Dr. Raja Elina pada petang ini. Untuk pengetahuan Doktor, kita ada lebih kurang 213 peserta yang join webinar kita pada petang ini. Dan saya mewakili Persatuan Pegawai Sains KKM mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Dr. Raja Elina atas kesudian Doktor berkongsi sejarah dan juga laluan yang Doktor lalui dari mula berkhidmat sehingga ke hari ini. Sebelum saya akhiri sesi webinar pada hari ini, terdapat dua pengumuman yang ingin saya sampaikan. Yang pertama, ASOMH akan menganjurkan beberapa program pada tahun 2023 iaitu ASIK, iaitu Conference Dui Tahunan ASOMH, Malam Anugerah Gemilang ASOMH, Anugerah ASOMH dan AGM ASOMH ke-15. Tentatively pada 15 hingga 16 Mei 2023. Mana-mana pegawai sains yang berminat untuk menjadi jawatankuasa, sila imbas QR code di skrin atau klik pada link yang dikongsikan pada paparan. Pengumuman kedua, ASOMH akan menganjurkan satu webinar bersama Roche yang bertajuk Innovations in Chemistry and Immunoassay Systems and Assays yang akan disampaikan oleh Hua Ming Seng. Poster dan link webinar akan dikongsi melalui kumpulan WhatsApp dan Telegram ASOMH. Dan kepada semua peserta yang menghadiri sesi webinar pada petang ini, jangan lupa untuk isikan link kehadiran dengan mengisi borang yang telah dikongsikan atau dengan mengimbas kod QR pada skrin. Sekali lagi saya mewakili pihak ASOMH mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Dr. Aziddin selaku speaker serta kepada semua pegawai sains yang turut serta pada sesi webinar pada hari ini. Semoga kita bertemu lagi dalam sesi webinar akan datang. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih semua.